My name is Gemnaline Morsaria Luna. I'm an ecosystem modeler for Long Live the Kings, and I'm a visiting scientist at the Northwest Fisheries Science Center in Seattle, Washington, where I live. I do data analysis, I synthesize data, I do statistics, I apply different types of models to answer different questions that are related to climate change, conservation, fisheries management, and overall conservation of marine systems. It's a model that simulates a marine ecosystem from everything from bacteria to currents to biogeochemistry, all through the food web to fisheries and fisheries management. And we can also simulate things like climate change or other types of human impacts. So these models serve as sandboxes that let us test hypotheses that we couldn't test in real life. The model in reality is a series of files that describe the different biological parameters that we want to describe for each of the functional groups or species in the model. And then there's an actual executable code. So it's a series of mathematical equations that take those parameters, take the different input files, and carry out a bunch of mathematical equations. Here I'm running one Atlantis simulation. So the model just loaded all the different parameter files, and it's starting to run the first time step, which is 12 hours. So it's going through all the different biological equations. So this is a 30-year simulation, and it'll take about 2.5 days to run. Sometimes we do run 70 or 100-year simulations, and those can take over a week. Once I do data analysis, I want to summarize the results in visualizations, and eventually we want to publish that research as a scientific article. Not everyone is going to read every word in my paper, but they are going to look at the figures. And I want them to be clear and transmit a message. Visualizations are one of the most important parts of our job because they really help us convey what our results are and how our results answer the questions that we're asking. Usually what we'll do, like the most basic things, is we'll graph the biomass over time. And that'll just look like a line that can, decrease or increase or just change depending on different environmental and biological patterns. The same thing with catch. It'll just look like a line depending on how much that catches. And then we can do things that are more complex depending on what the question is and what we want to show. In the case of the NuaVes visualizer, it's essentially taking the files that are produced from the Atlantis simulation, and then it's using a conversion to put in the number of fish. So it's kind of just giving a ratio of how things change from one scenario to the other. One of the most important things that we can do to conserve marine resources is to first really understand why we need to conserve them and what are we trying to protect them from. So the models are super important because they let us do things that we couldn't do in reality. So we can do different scenarios, we can test different hypotheses, like what happens if you increase fishing by anglers in certain areas, or what happens if you closed it completely to all sorts of fishing. So we can run all these experiments, which in the model obviously have no cost. So I've always liked biology. I always knew that I wanted to work in something related to botany or biology. So I got an undergraduate degree in marine biology. When I was an undergraduate, I really had the opportunity to get really involved in research. So I worked at the herbarium, and I got to go in the field a lot, and I got to interact with a lot of the different researchers that worked on different things at the university. I think my favorite class was ecology. I just really liked everything that it described and just thinking about the system in general. I also always really liked the classes that had labs in them. I think even for different fields in biology, you want to have attention to detail. You want to be able to recall lots amount of information. So be able to read like large texts and be able to synthesize them is really important. Programming is a great skill that, at this point is not even limited to biology, but any aspect of life science, you need some coding or programming skill. It's going to be useful in anything. There's, I think, very few aspects of biology that don't require a working knowledge of math and statistics. That's also super important. I think first is, even when you're in high school, try to take as many classes that are related. So biology, chemistry, make sure that you have calculus, and even if you can take statistics, that's great. And then also try to look for volunteer opportunities. So if there's an aquarium or there's nonprofits in the area where you can approach them and just try to get some experience. Like anything you learn is going to be useful. And the way to learn and to insinuate yourself into something, and the way you meet people, is to get a foot in the door. And even if you're just helping sort fish or clean samples, it is experience and it will count later on. I really like answering new questions, and I like the challenge of figuring things out and coming up with new ways and new answers and learning new things. So you think about it, like often every new piece of data I get makes me have to learn something new. I think just life sciences and biology, and especially marine biology in general, are just really rewarding. And there's so much that you can do as a marine biologist. You can be a purely field researcher. You can do things like genetics. You can work with whale calls, like acoustics. The range of things that you can do is so broad that you can really find what you like and what your niche is.